His voice, just when I think it can't get any deeper, he somehow makes it go deeper. I don't know. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly, and in this video I am going to be listening to the album Bloody Kisses from the band Type O Negative. Now this is Type O Negative's third studio album. They released it in 1993 and I'm pretty new to their music. I've only heard their fourth studio album, October Rust, which I really enjoyed. It just had this awesome dark gothic kind of witchy vibe to it, and I'm curious to see if they're going to have that sound on Bloody Kisses as well. But a lot of you guys have been recommending this one and I loved October Rust, so I'm very curious to hear more from Type O Negative and yeah, just see what I'm going to think of Bloody Kisses. Okay, so starting this album off is track 1, which is called Machine Screw.
Easy, easy.
Alright, it's like all these echoey industrial sounds, and then this woman moaning. Well, that was track 1, Machine Screw. Kind of like a little introductory track to this album, less than a minute long and very ambient, kind of industrial sounding. And then with that woman moaning too, it definitely is like setting a certain tone for this album. So I'm just gonna continue on with track 2, which is called Christian Woman.
Forgive her, for she knows not what she does. Across upon her bedroom wall, on your back or knees.
I love that guitar. It has this amazing sludginess to its sound. Those second vocals are interesting. Now this part is reminiscent of like being in a church. It's just very quiet and a little bit somber. Yeah, those second vocals are just, they're so like nasally compared to Peter Steele's. It's an interesting combination. Feel her God inside of her, deep inside of her. So far there's definitely some strong themes with this album, crossing over between like sexuality and religion. They're definitely using that a lot.
Jesus Christ looks like me.
That percussion is cool. All right, now we've got some organ coming in too. That was track 2, Christian Woman. I loved that song. That was almost like 4 songs in one. It started off with that pretty restrained start, and then they just brought in all of those instrumentals. And at times, like I said, it almost reminded me of being in a church, like something very atmospheric and kind of somber about its sound. Then we got that third part where it sounded like you were outdoors in the springtime with the birds chirping and you could hear like water running. It was almost like they brought new life, like a sort of vibrancy or freshness back to that track. And then it ended with that last chunk of the song where it was really upbeat and he was saying, Jesus Christ looks like me, like something almost very danceable about it and very up tempo. But I'm going to move on to track 3, which is called Black Number 1, Little Miss Scarall.
I went looking for trouble. Now it's All Hallows Eve.
That organ again is back. Man, I just love the atmosphere that they create with their music. They just keep it so restrained, but yet they bring this sort of like almost tension to it in a way.
She just left.
and then I think this is another vocalist they've got.
Little wolfskin boots is Halloween.
They're really good about like painting a picture with their lyricism and even just with the sound of their music. I love that about Typo Negative. They just have a way of like conjuring up all this imagery in my head. All right, here we go again with kind of a more slowed down, like melodic bridge to this song. Now it sounds like a music box playing with a heartbeat effect they've added on. And then that same percussion is back that they had on the last track. It sounds like they're hitting the side of a tin can or something. It's got this very hollow quality to it.
Was like fucking a dead.
This song is so much fun. They keep inserting these tiny little breaks almost that just change up the sound completely. I love it. Again, the percussion keeps standing out to me. Well, that was track 3, Black Number 1, Little Miss Scarall. I absolutely loved that thing. I honestly can't believe it was 11 minutes long. That's a pretty long track runtime, but it just flew by. They were doing so much on that in terms of the variety of sounds. And yeah, I just love the way Type O Negative paints a picture with their music, just the way it makes you feel and their lyricism. It just is very specific in its sound, if that makes sense. It puts a lot of vivid imagery in your head, which I personally really enjoy. All right, moving on to track 4, we have Wray, Come Out and Play. It's like all these people chanting and like a woman crying or something, it sounds like. Well, that was track 4, Wray, Come Out and Play. Not really any instrumentals going on with that one, just a lot of chanting, and it sounded like crickets chirping. It kind of transported you to being like out in the middle of the woods on a summer night. Very unsettling though, with like the shrieking and everything, and it sounded almost like a demon or something at the very end of that track. But I'm going to continue on with track 5, which is called Kill All the White People. Alright, this one's actually pretty different. It's definitely got like a harder, more staccato, like punchiness to it. Man, I love the sound of these guitars they've got going on. Again, they just have this sort of like staticiness or a fuzziness to them. I know they're kind of introducing that chanting that the last track had. They've got more of that going on, and it sounds like gunshots too. There's something about this track that is kind of reminiscent to me of like Mr. Bungle, like a playfulness almost. That was track 5, Kill All the White People. I'm not really sure what to think about that one. That one was pretty different for what I've heard from Typo Negative so far. They usually have a sort of like drawn out, really atmospheric kind of like haunted softness almost to their sound, and that track didn't really have that. It just brought more aggression, like more of a punchiness to their sound. But moving on to track 6, we have Summer Breeze. See, this track now is back at it with that like slowed down ambience that I was talking about. Those little musical notes that they're injecting from time to time just sound like beams of sunlight. There's something very warm and radiant about their tone. Yeah, it's like you have all of this really distorted, muddled guitar going on, but then they keep injecting on these other tones that pull it out of that heaviness. They lighten it up. They kind of bring a freshness to this song. They're just doing so much with the sounds on this album. I would argue even more so than on October Rust. I love it. There's so much variety. That was track 6, Summer Breeze. The imagery of that one that it conjured up in my head was fantastic. It definitely had like a kind of light, airy, summery quality to it. I loved how they had all that distortion and amazing heaviness on the guitar, but like I said, they would infuse all of these other sounds that just made that track get pulled up out of that almost. All right, well, I'm going to continue on with track 7, which is called Set Me on Fire. Yeah, there's more of a warmth to this song. It's got this kind of soft, slightly bouncy quality to it. What was that? It was like a growl. That was track 7, Set Me on Fire. That was a really fun one. I would say probably the most like upbeat song that they've had on this album so far. A little bit more lighthearted. It had a sort of like funky grooviness to it, which I loved. And it's interesting too, it had less of that distortion going on, like less of that kind of cold, fuzzy heaviness. But moving on to track 8, we have Dark Side of the Womb. All right, we got a baby crying. That was track 8, Dark Side of the Womb. Just a little 28-second, again, kind of like an interlude or break on this album. Just a baby crying, and then again, like some moaning, it sounded like. Almost like a woman giving birth. That was kind of the image it conjured up in my head. But I guess I'm just going to continue on with track 9, which is called We Hate Everyone.
Right we call it. Left is nothing. We don't care what you think.
Yeah, there's definitely a second vocalist at times on this album. His voice is such a contrast to Peter Steele's. It's very like high and kind of nasally sounding, and Peter Steele's is so deep and like more of his chest voice. This one is reminding me a lot of track 5, Kill All the White People, in how it's a little bit more punchy, like more aggressive with its sound. Or maybe not. It just changed all of a sudden. There's something kind of industrial about this part of it. Like, what is that sound? It's sort of funky. I like it. All right, another change up. That was track 9, We Hate Everyone. Again, a little bit more of a punchy track to that one, more of an aggressiveness, and really interesting commentary too with the lyrics. From what I was picking up on, it sounded like people had been accusing them of being sexist and racist, and by just claiming we hate everyone, it's almost like they were taking away the power that people had of labeling them those things, because if they hate everyone, how can they be biased toward one group of people if they just hate everyone? And then in terms of the like instrumentals and the sound of that track, I loved how kind of industrial it got at points, with a sort of like sludgy heaviness and all of the effects they were using. Moving on to track 10 is the title track, Bloody Kisses, A Death in the Family. Again, with this organ, I love it. I love how it almost sounded like this song just started floating upward. You found the strength to end your life? Yeah, there's a lot of themes of death on this album. Again, it's just lending even more to that like haunted quality and a sort of like gothicness almost. His voice, just when I think it can't get any deeper, he somehow makes it go deeper. I don't know. I love this piano now that they're infusing. I just absolutely love how atmospheric this part is. There's like this amazing, echoey, reverberated quality to it. Yeah, I just got goosebumps. That part was awesome. It always sounds to me like they've recorded these songs outside. There's such an immensity to them. It's like the sound can just go on forever, and it doesn't have any limitations to it. There's just a sort of wildness to their music, like it's completely uncontained in a way.
It's like
And then it almost sounds like some bells, maybe, that they're kind of fusing in the background here. That was track 10, Bloody Kisses, A Death in the Family. I got so absorbed in the sound and atmosphere of that one. Extremely haunting and kind of like slowed down, almost like they stretched that song out. It started off really deep and heavy sounding with all that distortion and a sort of somberness, like with the organ and everything. They kind of had that quality to it, almost like a funeral was taking place. And it's interesting, the track it's called A Death in the Family. And then they changed the tone of that, and it's almost like it got lifted out of that, and it sounded a little bit more hopeful and like warmer with its tone. All right, moving on to track 11 is 3OIF. All right, sounds like a car driving down a road. I don't really know what I'm hearing right now. Very ambient, like a very strong echoiness to this one. And now it's just a voice repeating negative. All right, and then it almost sounded like a car accident at the very end there. That was kind of a weird song. That was track 11, 3OIF. Yeah, again, another kind of interlude style one without like really any instrumentals, just more of this atmospheric noise. Something very unsettling and very haunted about that song. But moving on to track 12 is Too Late, Frozen. All right, yet again, we have like a more upbeat kind of punchy one. They definitely keep flip-flopping between these two opposing styles of their music on this album. You have kind of this danceability, more upbeat quality to certain parts, and then you have those more like restrained atmospheric portions that have that haunted tone to them. That was a fun little break from this more like kind of bouncy quality. I love how they just brought in all of that echoiness for a second there. Yeah, and then this is more the other side to their sound I was talking about. It's like they slow it down. It's almost like their sound is in slow motion. Why does this all of a sudden really remind me of the Mars Volta? And then I think I hear a dog barking and like horses' hooves too. So much distortion on this part. I love it. We've got all these little chimey sounds now that's reminiscent of snowflakes to me, like falling out of the sky. All right, and now they're bringing things full circle and they're bringing back the original sound that this track had. That was track 12, Too Late, Frozen. Yet again, another song that they just like completely changed up about halfway through. At the start, it just had more of that upbeat quality to it, just a little bit more punchy and way less distortion than other portions of this album have had. And then they completely changed that up on me. They slowed it down and they brought in so much more of that atmospheric quality. And I loved how toward the end of that one, it was almost like the vocals sounded frozen, like they used so much distortion on them. There was such a cold, icy tone to that song at the end. All right, up next is track 13, which is called Blood and Fire. Oh, this kind of reminds me of Deftones right at the beginning here. Alright, we have those vocals coming back. I think it's a different vocalist that they've like really distorted the sound of. And we've got that, I'm going to call it the tin can percussion too. Alright, I should have known to expect a change up. Now this song is getting real minimalistic with its sound. I love how the last track was called Too Late Frozen, and it had all of that distortion to it. And then this one is Blood and Fire, so fire being the opposite of frozen. And it kind of has a very opposing sound to it. Like there's not a whole lot of distortion except a little bit on those guitars. It just sounds warmer. Is this English? It sounds like a different language.
No more nights of blood and fire. What fire?
That was track 13, Blood and Fire. So much energy to that one. I loved how clear his voice was too. Way less of that distortion. And like I said, just like a warmer sound to that song. But I really want to see how they're going to close Bloody Kisses out. So I'm going to move on to track 14, the last song on this album, which is called Can't Lose You. Is that like a sitar that I'm hearing? Yet another sound that I was not expecting to hear, but it somehow works. It's bringing a very unique tone to this song. I love how this sounds very much like a Typo Negative song with the guitars and the vocals, and then the sitar is just so different. It's cool. I've never really heard this sound from them before. Well, that was track 4, Can't Lose You, the last track on Bloody Kisses. Very unique with its sound, with that sitar and everything. I was not expecting the album to end that way, but I really enjoyed it. And I find it really interesting too. At the start of this album, they were implementing a lot of church-like sounds, like with the organ and everything, where there's more of like a confined feeling, more of a rigidity almost to their sound. And then that last song was so loose and relaxed and warm, and it was more reminiscent of like being outside. It was like it was less confined and it was more free to just kind of flow with the sound. Well, that concludes my reaction to Bloody Kisses, the third studio album from the band Typo Negative. The first couple tracks on this album definitely led me to believe that it was going to stick to a sort of like theme and sound throughout the whole thing, but Typo Negative definitely proved me wrong. They brought in a ton of other experimental stuff and sound qualities that really changed this album up and brought so much variety to it. I would say the standout tracks for me on first listen, I really liked track 2, Christian Woman. And then I think my favorite track on this album, right now it's a toss-up between track 3, Black Number 1, and track 10, the title track, Bloody Kisses. I think the longer runtime of those two songs really let them change up the sound so much and play around with so many different qualities to their music. But Bloody Kisses in its entirety was fantastic. I had a blast listening to this one. Definitely let me know down in the comments what type O negative album I should do next. And yeah, as usual, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.